And share my screen. I gotta move this first. I can't share what I'm looking at here. And what do I want? The agenda. That's what I want. What was that? Yeah, I guess it's important that we have these. If we go to a quarterly meeting, then I kind of forget how to do all this stuff in 3 months. So share, and let's do screen two. All right. So welcome everyone. I'm Roger Rayle, Chair of CARD and Chair of Sci Residents for Safe Water. And this meeting's being recorded and will be posted up to YouTube when it's over. I recommend that when you're watching, especially during share, if you do it in gallery mode, up in the upper right corner of your screen, there's a looks like a 3x3 grid. That's the one I use. And then when you're looking at it on another computer, like I have over here, then oh, that's not going to work. I got my background on. Anyway, I was going to show you what it looks like. This camera has the background. The image doesn't show. Anyway, I'm going to turn off the speaker over here so it doesn't get feedback. And then, yeah, that way, if you use gallery mode, you can change the size of the gallery or what's being shown during sharing and see more details one side or the other. So that's my introduction. And I'm going to turn it over to Beth for approval of the June minutes. And as we were talking about earlier, the draft of this June minutes was done by AI, Google's Gemini AI. I fed the agenda and the transcript of the YouTube. And I thought it did a pretty good job organizing it and making it look structured. And so if you see anything odd about it, though, let me know because we're going to watch out for things like that. Can't trust AI with final versions. We have to review it first. And there were a few things I caught in here, but it is actually pretty good. So go ahead, Beth.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for doing that, Roger. Do I have a motion to approve the June minutes?
So moved.
Wonderful. Everyone to agree to approve it?
All in favor? Yeah.
Just a comment, the AI actually looks good. Going by memory, I do pay attention. Looks like a pretty good Chris embodiment what's there. So it's we have to be careful not to be too reliant on it, but what we have is good here. So appreciate it.
Thank you. So all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. The minutes are approved. And I'm going to turn it over now to Jack Eaton to moderate. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Beth. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Beth. This is probably going to be a short meeting. Is there anyone here from the EPA? I don't see anyone.
Georgia was on screen. She might have something.
She's from our Congresswoman.
That's later. Yeah.
Dingell. So go ahead, Georgia. Do you have anything from the Congresswoman?
Yes. Oh, screen kind of came up weird. Yeah, so Vincent emailed me about this, and this is a good reminder to just mention this to the group too. Is that for a couple of months now, we've heard EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin sort of amplify what the administration was talking about in President Trump's first term, which was that they were planning on accelerating Superfund cleanup. But as I'm sure most folks who are, involved in environmental work or just have been watching congressional action in the past couple of weeks, have realized that EPA is facing a approximately 50% budgetary cut in total. And so it really appears to us and several others that any intention to accelerate the cleanup of Superfund sites is completely at odds with this budget proposal, which would cut the EPA's budget significantly. And very specifically, this budget includes a 47.4% reduction in proposed funding for the Superfund program alone. And Rep. Dingell is opposed to this budget proposal for this reason, and of course for many others that I'm confident most people are following. And so, we don't really know how to rectify the comments from Mr. Zeldin about, hoping to accelerate the program while also a bill that will likely pass and includes significant cuts to the EPA and very specifically to Superfund. And of course, not only do these things affect programs, it's also personnel. And when when the agencies have had to cut folks, this has had a really real impact on the work they're able to do. Across a lot of federal agencies, it's one or two people managing programs. Not the Superfund program, that's not really a good example of that, but grant programs, for example. And so when you cut this number of people, which is what you have to do if you slice the EPA's budget in half, they're gone and there's no one on the receiving end of your emails. So actually being able to administer some of these programs, the future is incredibly uncertain. And now that it's June, we've seen, the impact firsthand that the reductions have had from the deferred resignation programs, that kind of thing. It has really slowed things down, especially for a specific number of programs that we have, across DOE, USDA, and the same sort of thing is facing EPA if this budget proposal passes. So really confusing to have these two things being told to us at once from the administration, and don't really know how to rectify that. And of course, it's to be seen if this budget will pass, but it's not looking likely that something to save EPA is going to happen as a part of this budget. So just wanted to make that note for everyone so that we're on the same page about that and just understood where we were thinking from this two separate pieces of information, line of reasoning from the administration.
Georgia, do you think that there might be a move just to increase the number of delistings of Superfund sites and say, well, we fixed it because it's delisted?
Well, that's not really what we saw with the first term. They were attempting to, make deletions off the NPL list by solving the problem. But I have no idea if that's what the administration will do this time, especially because cutting a budget this way really puts you in a bind. So I find it very hard to believe that they're going to be able to be more productive with fewer dollars and fewer staff.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to make sense of that. So that's
nobody to measure the outputs and review them. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Vince.
Thanks, Georgia, for giving us an update on it. I appreciate it. Because it did look awfully confusing because actually the administrator had listed off a bunch of sites that were in progress that he wanted to finish up on and be done with them. And obviously it's not happening now. I don't know if it will happen later or not. But yeah, it's very strange how they're presenting it one way and then the next day it comes out different. Unfortunately for us, it's not an easy situation to deal with. It could be a while before the site, this site gets listed. But appreciate you looking into it and getting back to us. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, James.
Kudos, Georgia, and to your boss for all that you do. I think we should assume for the worst and pray for the best. Onward, and we continue to do all the above strategy and get this damn thing cleaned up.
All right, thank you. So I have a quick question. Um, let's say that the Senate and the House can't agree on a budget. When would we expect that there would be a showdown, like a government shutdown or something? Do you know?
They have a little while until September, until this particular appropriations package needs to be passed. Though, of course, the president is looking for a win here, and it would be a good sign of that to be able to get congressional Republicans, who of course are in the majority, to fall in line with him here. He's of course had his own issues with the Freedom Caucus, namely in the House, who aren't in support of some of the programs that would expand the deficit in this situation. And of course, he does not have the support of Democrats. And, you know, that usually means that there's caucusing to figure out what has to move for Republicans to get in line and support it. And it has been really inconsistent over the past few years with the House majority Republican in terms of how they actually get that done. So that has been very confusing. Of course, right now, the way that the Senate and the House are going about this is in an attempt to pass this as quickly as possible. But of course, many people have quite a few amendments that they've proposed. And undoubtedly, the folks who are opposed to this bill, like Representative Dingell, are trying very hard to make the message clear that these kinds of cuts across the federal government are going to have devastating impacts, not only on programs like these, but on individual people who have come to rely on or at least benefit from federal support. So, you know, there's an effort to keep this out of a vote that would pass. But of course, from the Republican side and from the president's side, for sure, he is, you know, full steam ahead to try to get this done. Though, of course, they do have some time. Sorry, this really long-winded answer for your question. They do have some time, though.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the EPA budget? All righty, then I'm going to move on. And I'm going to move up Alexis to this point so that she can get out of here on time.
I really appreciate that. I'll also note that I just sent a note about my next meeting, so I have a few extra wiggle room minutes as needed too. So yeah, I'm Alexis Lamb. I'm the founder and artistic director of an event called Refugia Festival, which takes place in Nichols Arboretum. This is our second year doing Refugia Festival there, and one of the years. And one of the things that we really focus on is, you know, are ways that we can partner with organizations who are already on the ground doing the work in the community to bring attention to conservation efforts and kind of make that as the core focus, but using arts as the catalyst for that action. So my background is actually as a composer, a musician. So I just finished my doctorate at University of Michigan and started Refugia Festival as part of my dissertation, where the composition of my dissertation premiered at last year's event. And this year we've been wanting to reach out to more organizations in the area to, yeah, just allow it to be a platform for people, attendees, to get to know who all is in the area, how they might be able to stay involved beyond the festival. And so I reached out, my student intern reached out this year to Roger and talked about the opportunities that we have available this year. One of them is we are hosting a tabling area where organizations can come in and host something. We're asking it to be a little bit interactive so that people have an interest in engaging in the space. And Roger had shared some of the information of the dioxane maps and, you know, seeing that in an arts setting, in an art gallery, having some songs written about the dioxane plumes and just looking at how, again, using a different medium to address these issues can sometimes bring people to the issue who wouldn't otherwise find an interest in it. So I just wanted to come in and say hi and introduce myself, and let you know about what Refugia Festival is. It's happening on Sunday, September 28th in the ARB. We are also working on putting together some sort of service activity workshop while we're there. And one of them actually might lead into some work with the Huron River in particular, that little patch that goes through the Arboretum. And because the dioxane plume is getting closer and closer to the ARB, it seemed only fitting that we bring this to the attention of folks in the area. And, if they're not already aware of it, because it's underground and perhaps not on their main radar, that would be something worth bringing up. So I'm really here to just answer any questions that you might have. I will note that the festival this year is on a pay-as-you-can model, with free being the lowest amount that you can pay. So we're really trying to open it up to anyone who has an interest. And if there are ways to partner, whether that's through tabling or anything else that comes to mind as an organization, I would be happy to hear it.
Thank you.
And I'd encourage anybody that might be interested, if they want to represent CARD or SRSW, to contact me, and I can provide some materials. And that day I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to do it that day, because that's the day we celebrate. My wife and I celebrate meeting 57 years ago or something like that.
That's an important day to keep in mind. Yeah, you should be there to celebrate that.
Yeah, so but other people might be able to fill in. We do a couple, community events every year, and it's usually Vince and Rita and myself and maybe a couple others, Jack and that. But other people may be viewing this video, and they can get an idea that maybe they can participate.
Right. Well, and the other things too, I want this to obviously be a platform to talk about CARD and to talk about Scioto Residents for Safe Water. But also there are individual opportunities to collaborate. One of them is we are seeking volunteers to help out during the day. But we are also starting a new initiative this year called Field Resonances, which will be a community curated arts gallery. And so we're doing kind of an open call for anybody who creates art, in whether it's visual art, 3D, any sort of temporal art. We have some scheduling space for it to be shared, such as some of the songs that were shared with me. So if you are somebody who perhaps dabbles in some art making in your free time, and you'd like to have it present at Refugia Festival, this is really another opportunity for that, and perhaps even an opportunity to have some of the dioxane maps as part of the gallery, because it is really striking to look at. And I think that's the point, is using this as an attention getter and then an action maker later on.
Righty. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to move on in the agenda, and I don't see anybody here from EGLE either.
But we do have an update.
Oh, okay.
I've updated the link here so that I just got this earlier today from Chris, and basically the first 7 items, nothing to report.
Alrighty.
And then the geothermal at Slauson School. Better make this bigger over here so people can see it. See, I can make it bigger here too. So that was news last month, and I'll cover this a little bit in my chair update about the test wells at Slauson School for their geothermal installation there. So that's kind of good that we're going to actually have some more sampling in that area. And then he goes into the non-agenda item update about sampling residential wells, and we'll get those results once the county has made sure all the residents got their results before they make it public. And then there was this one little glitch about the blank samples they used to test this methodology showed dioxane, and not sure why, but it was, what did they say, some the blanks were prepared for volatile organic compounds, not specifically for 1,4-dioxane. So that was, that you get a false positive, something that's not supposed to have any dioxane in it. That's a little troubling. Anyway, so that's basically his update. And I guess if you have any questions, we'll have to ask him about it. I did respond to his email that sent this, asking, well, when are we going to get the database update that was promised in the spring? To update all of the data through 2024, including the residential sampling that's not currently in their database, because I need those in order to do my visualizations, and it's already 6 months old, so we'll see.
All right. Thank you, Roger. Any comments or questions of Roger? I'm going to move on to item 5, Washtenaw County. Yusuf, do you have anything to tell us?
Yusuf is here.
I'm here. I don't really have much to report back, though. So I don't really have a whole lot. I did talk to our attorney. Sounds like we're in a holding pattern waiting on the appeal on our court case. So I don't have much beyond that, unfortunately. I know Kristen's here too, but before I stop talking, I just wanted to say that I've been reflecting a lot on the work that we are doing in Washtenaw County around environmental work. And I just want to thank all of you for your dedication to this work. Many of you have been doing this for so long and are so passionate about this work. And it's a lot to show up every month or every, couple months and have these conversations. Roger, you're at all these events. And I just want to appreciate and recognize this whole group for the work that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to, continue our advocacy around this issue. So I wanted to thank all of you because it's not easy work. So.
Yeah. And you notice the age of the people on the screen, most of them. Because we apparently have time on our hands to do this, so we don't have to pay to have somebody else do it.
Thanks, Joseph, for all the work you do for us. I appreciate your diligence and good efforts. So, right back at you.
So I want to extend my thanks as well, but could you tell us what is currently under appeal? I'm not sure that I knew of a trial court decision that's under appeal. You're mute.
I am muted. Sorry about that. The text that I got back was no updates while the appeal is still pending. Everything is on hold until a decision on that. And so I am not exactly sure what that's in reference to, but Kristen may have more information. And if not, I can email you guys with more detail.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Kristen, do you know anything about this?
Hey there. Gosh, I don't have the smart words. It's the ongoing complaint that the health department has with Gelman. And honestly, it's the one that's been ongoing for 3+ years. And it's just kind of volleyed back and forth between the county and Gelman. So there's nothing new. That's certainly true. It's just the same ongoing back and forth appeal. And I don't know if even appeal is the right word. It's just the ongoing complaint and no updates. I don't know that I've gotten an update in quite some time.
Okay.
Well, this is about the intervention by the county, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if Yusuf is done, I do have a couple more details about the sampling that we did. Roger and EGLE stole a little bit of our thunder, but that's okay. It's EGLE sampling, so I'm happy to have them send out that report. We did our residential vaccine sampling the week of June 9th. We had 117 samples collected. We do have new detections, which we're not surprised about because the laboratory, EGLE's laboratory revised their reporting limit from 0.5 parts per billion down to 0.2 parts per billion. So it's all good news in terms of like we have a lower detection limit, but we do have some new detections because we're able to detect a lower limit with EGLE's lab than we were able to before. All results are still under that 3 parts per billion. And I think the letters went out either late last week or just yesterday. So once we know the residents will get their results, we'll be able to share more broadly. This year, we also, as a request or a response to a request from a concerned resident, sent out a survey to all of our residential dioxane samplers about what sort of water treatment or information on water treatment they have on their homes. We sent out 140 surveys. We only got 7 responses. So not a great response rate. I think the summary is that most people don't really know what, if any, sort of water treatment they have on their homes. But unfortunately, with that low response rate, it's really hard to make a broad, informed conclusion. But I think we can probably safely say that we can try to provide more information to folks about water treatment generally. We know that from our residential well customers broadly throughout the county, not just related to this. So we may look at more information either on our website or pushed out as part of the sampling process. And then, yeah, I don't have much more about the Slauson geothermal other than what was already reported. But I know that there is interest, and I think moving forward to install some permanent monitoring wells at a couple borings at that location. So any questions for me?
Go ahead,
I
Mike.
guess your hand up.
Go ahead, Mike.
How many additional new detections were there?
I don't have that number in front of me. Let me see. I know how many detections there were. I don't know how many new detections there were. So I can't quite piece that out. And then to add a layer of complication, I call it a new detection if it's newly detected by the EGLE lab, but it may not be a new detection based on the sampling that Scioto Township did. So we'll have that summary for you in August. Jenny's off this week because it's the 4th of July holiday. I don't see Carissa or other staff who was directly involved in the sampling on it. So you got me, and so I have a high-level summary for you, but we'll have more for you in August.
Yeah,
Actually, it would be of most interest to me is how many additional detections you can attribute to the change in sampling method by EGLE. So if you plan to do that, that would be very interesting to me.
Yeah, and we'll have to parse out which ones we've sampled before versus which are just under that 0.5 parts per billion. But I'll make note of that.
Chris said something about that there that I highlighted here in the text. And that was my question too, is were there any new properties that weren't detected by township sampling or by EGLE prior to this round? So it sounds like you don't have that information yet either.
I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Can you give us information on where the new detections were?
I cannot until the residents get that results. So again, we'll have a more comprehensive report at the August card meeting. But the letters just went out, so I don't want to provide any information before the residents receive it themselves.
Okay.
Thanks.
I've got one more question relating to
Sure.
the fact that EGLE seems to be having trouble uploading this data to the database. Have you been involved with that at all?
I have not.
Because when SCIO did their sampling, first of all, it's important to name the well consistently. And the consultant doing the sampling for the township didn't do that, so you couldn't match up with the the township's database for that property. And you couldn't match up with the counties or the EGLE's nomenclature for the properties. And but once those were corrected, I made a spreadsheet that matched what Gelman's monthly update looked like. They take a spreadsheet and they upload it to the database. And if it's in that format, it should be just a quick thing, like 2-minute update. So that's kind of thing I think needs to be worked out, so that we don't have to wait 6 months in order for this data to be in the official database. So, anything you can do along those lines to help would be appreciated.
Yeah, that's going to be EGLE in their database, so I'm not sure how much influence I have over that.
Well, who actually did the sampling?
Washtenaw County does the sampling.
Okay, so you have a role in it because you have the names of you got the addresses.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as the address is in a consistent format, and you got the results in the right decimal point, it should just be a matter of giving them a spreadsheet that will work with their system. They should have a way to do that without having to update those one at a time, because there's several, 127 readings.
Yeah, I really can't speak to their database. I know that it wasn't something that was easy when Dan was giving those reports. So I don't know that anything has changed. But again, it's their database. I really can't speak to how that process works internally to EGLE.
I may have to done EGLE, whoever is doing that at EGLE, to make sure that they do it in the most efficient way, accurate way. Thank you.
Go ahead, Vince.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, I've been talking to some people in Ann Arbor about the zoning potential changes that could increase the number of homes dramatically in Ann Arbor. And in the past, when the city would look at using Great Lakes Water Authority, the city council voted it down to use that for the city of Ann Arbor. And I think there could be problems coming down the road if we don't control the densities in Ann Arbor and other places. But I do think,
like clockwork, girl.
I'm sorry.
Clockwork.
Anyway, so I think it's just a heads up that down the road, there may be some issues as some of the township areas get contaminated and they need drinking water. I think we should try and be sure that we have that capacity to at least handle some of the requirements in the townships, because the federal government actually built treatment plants and they had Ann Arbor agree that they could, that the townships could use some of that water for their own usage, typically residential. So I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that's an issue that has now been discussed more effectively and more thoroughly. And I don't think the city of Ann Arbor is really on top of it, or just don't want to deal with it. It's not a great situation for us. Just to let you know, it's being discussed amongst a fair number of people now. So thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead, Rita.
Kristen, while we have you on the phone, we talked a little bit about EPA with Georgia and some of the implications of the budget changes that are happening at the federal level. And I'm just wondering if you feel you could speak a little bit about whether some of those changes are going to impact or how they might impact some of your work in the environment on the county level. Thanks.
Sure. Well, I can tell you we are already seeing implications. There are a number of federal grants that were clawed back. So even though we had a balanced budget and we were doing all the right things, we were told to stop spending funds immediately several months ago. So we did that, which has resulted in us not being able to fill staffing positions, including in environmental health, even though there aren't general environmental health grants impacted at this point in time. But we're trying to look at the broader public health budget. So to not lay additional staff off, we are not filling vacancies that were budgeted, and we're to support our environmental health programs. And certainly not just environmental health. There's a number of other health departments. At the beginning, we anticipate probably additional cuts and concerns, but we're monitoring it as closely as we can, and doing what we can to try to move forward.
Well, thanks, and thanks for coming to our meeting tonight and hanging in there with us. So
Absolutely. All right, thanks. Any other questions?
We do appreciate what you do. And I think it was last month we were talking about filtration systems that homeowners could use. I had a pop-up ad in my Facebook feed that Culligan was selling a filter that they claimed would filter out forever chemicals, which is kind of a wild claim. So I'm going to put a link in the chat to that product, and if you want to take a look at that for us, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think that forever chemicals are generally considered the PFAS category, and there is at-home residential treatment for PFAS currently. We have not, that is like NSF certified to reduce PFAS to a certain, tested measurable level. We have not seen anything similar for 1,4-dioxane. And I know that there was a community recently, and I'm trying to remember if it was Indiana or Illinois, that put out some information about like a carbon or reverse osmosis filter. And when we asked that health department, they noted that there really wasn't any rigorous scientific study around that, but there might have been, and I'm using air quotes, you just can't see me, kind of some removal of 1,4-dioxane. So, we'll continue to look. We reach out to NSF regularly with that information to say, hey, you guys have anything? Have you heard anything coming down the line? And I think it was just a few weeks ago that we checked in and they had not still. But it's certainly an area that we keep an eye on.
Right.
One of the things I do every year or two is go to the home show and stop at all the filtration booths and ask them that direct question. And sometimes they're very forthcoming, say, we don't know how to do that. Sometimes the marketing people will say, I think we might be able to do that. I said, no, I don't think so. So the more people that do that, the more somebody's going to be working on it. We had that student group that was here looking at ways to do that. So maybe something will come out of that eventually.
Okay, I'm going to move on at this point. Is there anything from the Ann Arbor Township that we should know?
And nothing from us tonight.
All right, well, that was easy enough. How about you, Kathy? Is there anything in SIO we should know about?
No, I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Is there anyone here from the city of Ann Arbor?
If there isn't somebody from the city of Ann Arbor, then what I should do is bring up this email I got today, if I can get to it. There was actually an update.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
City of Ann Arbor, this one.
Looked like they pretty closely reiterated our last meeting, but yeah.
Yeah, this was another kind of summary of the last meeting. So I was happy to see this come out in a timely fashion. So if I haven't put a link in yet, I will, so that that people can have another view of what we covered at the last meeting.
Yep.
And this was interesting. They do this every couple months. They show how many pounds of dioxin was removed. So 154 pounds over 2 months. And I divided that into a 20,000 pound estimate at the number of pounds left, and it's like 2 decades. And that's if they can continue this rate, which they probably can't. So it'll probably be more like 4 decades or 8 decades at that rate. So
Yep.
anyway, that's all.
They're doing a lot and not accomplishing much. Go ahead, James.
Yeah. First off, some housekeeping. Vince, I'm sorry to disturb you during your commentary. I had an open mic and the dogs were acting up, so my wife was dealing with that. In terms of the city issues, just to remind everybody, the comprehensive land use plan is proceeding within the city, and Vince, you made some comments regarding concerns about growth and its impacts upon the water infrastructure. It was important for us to understand and have language in the land use plan that the Gelman Plume is referenced. If there is growth in infrastructure, we may have to rely on wells, and considering how a number of those wells are contaminated, that's something important to point out. We did link to the city's own website, but there have been some concerns raised in terms about what's the general commentary that's in the plan, how that specifically relates to zoning. But at any rate, Mr. Leonard, the planning director, was very interested in our commentary in terms of maps and delineation, and shared what we got, and also even what the city had with that department. So that's productive in and of itself. So stay tuned.
James, is there a link to this summary and a link to where in the plan dioxin's mentioned? Is anybody done any kind of linking?
Right now, we didn't see any reference to the plan, which is why we testified.
Oh, okay. So we don't know how much about dioxin is in the plan.
That's correct. There's been a second draft that's been submitted recently. In fact, the Planning Commission's meeting tonight as we speak to review that second draft. I haven't had a chance to review that, what's in there. So I'll make it an action point to keep this committee advised as to what's happening with that.
Thank you. That's good.
Thank you, James. We appreciate you making the comments to Planning Commission on this subject. And you still have your hand up. I'm gonna.
I will lower it.
Thank you. Any other comments about the city of Ann Arbor? Okay, I'm gonna move on. Rita, do we know anything more from the Yale folks?
No, and I'm sorry to say I was late in getting an email out to Vasilis, so when I do hear from him, I'll let you know. But I just recently emailed him because I said, oh, this meeting's coming up, and I forgot to email. But I haven't heard anything. The last I heard was not good, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's as grim there as everywhere else. So.
Yeah, but I'll try to talk with him.
Yeah, this subcommittee under number 2 is still not met.
Yeah, Jack, what's up with that?
Yeah, I was pretty sure that the chair was going to schedule that. I haven't seen that. Are there any other issues from the executive board that anyone want? Go ahead, James.
Yeah, and basically the week after we met, I knew this was coming down the wire, but at the time of our meeting last month, it had not been announced. But within the day after of our card meeting, Senator Irwin announced that the Senate had reintroduced a polluter's pay package in the Senate, and concurrent legislation is reintroduced in the House, sponsored by Representative Morgan. And let me pull out my notes about that because I think it's important for this committee to understand. It's to read the summary, and I'm going by Sierra Club's notes on this. It is the polluter pay package. It's 2 sets of tie-barred bills to hold polluters accountable for site cleanup. Senate Bill 391 by Senator Irwin requiring more pollution reporting to EGLE and removing some cleanup exemptions. Senate Bill 392, Senator Moss mandating cleanup before land or water use restrictions and updating standards based on health data. And Senate Bill 385, which makes technical changes to support Senate Bill 392 enforcement. The second set expands residents' ability to seek damages. Senate Bill 386 and Senate Bill 393, introduced by Senator Susan Shink and Senator McCann of Kalamazoo, will allow recovery of medical monitoring costs and extend the statute of limitations. Senate Bill 387 by Mallory McMurrow would let the state seek damages for contamination from chemicals not regulated before 1994, like PFAS. I'm not sure how it'll help in terms of our the issues regarding Gelman and the court litigation, but this is promising in light of what's happening on the federal level. Card testified in front of Senator McCann's committee. I can't remember the exact day off the top of my head, but the following Wednesday after our meeting, and I introduced testimony, which was essentially the resolution that we passed last December, urging the legislature to pass this polluter pay package. It would certainly be helpful in terms of these issues and certainly help EGLE. It received a favorable hearing in the Senate. There's some quiet optimism that this will likely pass out of the committee. I can't say for sure. And there's a good possibility, again, not assured, that it would pass the Senate, which is under Democratic control. As I mentioned, tie-barred legislation was introduced in the House. Passage is probably less certain at this time. This does remain a major issue. But I did want to make the board aware that we did submit official statement on behalf of CARD, and I testified personally in it on the 10th. And my testimony, I believe, is in I put in the chat. I'm sending right now a reference to it's a YouTube of the hearing. And my testimony appears at roughly the 30-minute mark. So it's interesting. It's worth a watch.
Thanks, James, for doing that. Appreciate it.
James, I was struck by that it had to have 4 or 5 different bills in order to reconstitute apparently what the previous polluter pay had enabled. Like it was dismantled so much we had to put it back together with 4 or 5 different bills. Is that right?
Yes, apparently.
Yeah, because I'd sent in my 1995 testimony that I was supposed to be able to present in person, and that day I went up there. They weren't hearing any more testimony, and I just gave them the printed copy. But I sent that to Jeff and some others ahead of time, so I hope they were able to draw from some of that. That's all.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate that.
Go ahead, Yusuf.
Yeah, I don't know the current context of why the bill was divided, but I can tell you that it's not necessarily a bad thing. Generally, the bills are split up to include more legislators on the bill package, because this is something that the good news is this is something that at least Democrats that are, I would say, like real Democrats actually care about. And so this is something that is popular enough that people want to, want in on the action, and they want to sponsor part of the bill. And so they, often will divide the bill packages up to allow more people to be part of it. But also, just for context too, even when I did polluter pay, when I was in the legislature, we, because of that, glommed a bunch of other things onto polluter pay that went sort of beyond just the initial, premise of the bill, and entered into different parts of state law beyond just, NARIPA and some of the other things that we were focused on. It amended, consumer protection laws, all these different things that sort of allowed people to take different angles in terms of their, these environmental protection ideas. And so I think one year when we introduced it, it was like, I think, in fact, this mini bills, but it was all in the House. And I think we did a House version and a Senate version separate. And so it was close to a dozen different bills that were included in it. So it's not atypical that this is happening, and it's probably just to include more voices and to do more beyond just the main polluter pay, because, and again, it speaks to how popular polluter pay is, but also how effective the messaging is around the bill, because people want their bill to be associated with the concept of polluter pay.
Okay.
I have to say that I was personally very surprised and very excited that the legislature was doing this. Given that the track record, even with the Democratic trifecta, had been so dismal in getting anything passed in the last session. But I'm just very happy that there is some forward movement. And as Joseph said, if there's some popularity to it, maybe we can gain some momentum. So again, I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm very happy that this happened. And I'm grateful to Senator Irwin, Representative Morgan, Senator Schenck, and Senator McCann, and the other legislators for introducing these packages.
Any idea if this is going to pass anytime soon?
I'm uncertain. I know that the legislature is going towards some break. There may be some sessions in the summertime. I know the budget it will be consuming them, but I can't say I can't put a crystal ball on that when things are going to happen.
I think there's probably a less than 5% chance of this actually becoming law this term is the reality. But I think it could, as James was saying, could pass out of the Senate. If it does, it's not going to happen until September at the earliest, because they are singularly focused on the budget. I don't know how many of you have been following it, but long story short, things have fallen apart, and the Senate just adjourned for the rest of today. They're doing no attendance, no voting tomorrow. And while they may come back throughout the summer to try to work on this roads deal and education bill, the likelihood that they'll do anything else is zero. And so September at the earliest, but even then, I kind of doubt that the Senate will be very rushed to take this up. Unfortunately, the Chamber of Commerce and all of the other antagonists on this bill have been incredibly effective at still stymieing it. And I will also say that it is easier, unfortunately, for Democrats to do the quote unquote right thing when it comes to putting things up for a vote when they know that it's not even going to go anywhere in the House, and it can get blocked. So they can tell their stakeholders like the chamber and stuff, well, we just have to do this, get it out of the chamber. It's not going anywhere, rest assured. And so, the House is never going to pass this. I'm just being real with you guys. The House is never going to pass it. And I think that the governor may not even sign it, honestly, if this were to get to her desk. So I think there's a non-zero chance that she would not support that, even if it got to her. So I don't think this is going to become law this term. But the fact that if they can get it voted out of the Senate, I think that's a huge win for our movement generally. And it shows like a solid, it's sort of like planting the flag that like we got it that far. And then, if there's movement to take back the House, if that happens, I think that increases the likelihood that it then passes in the state House. But as James said, or maybe he didn't say, but we talked about it last night with James. There's a lot of legislators that, that even on the Democratic side that are not going to do the right thing in a lot of cases when it comes to this kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
Another combo, Joseph, but thank you for that. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
We have to be as persistent as the compound we're trying to clean up.
Which is why I appreciate you guys and why I said what I did earlier.
Well, we appreciate you, Joseph. Thank you.
Yes, both of you. Thank you much. Seeing no hands up, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda and turn this over to Roger.
All right, I'll try to get through this quick. First thing is I would encourage people to go back and look at the summary of the last meeting and see if there's any other items Because these were the ones that I picked out as being kind of new developments, key items from the last card meeting. The fact that the geothermal wells going in, they're going to get some sampling in conjunction with that. And there's some recent sampling in the area of West Park and Slauson School nearby, but we'll have some wells near Slauson School to find out what's really going on in the aquifer. It won't be the full regime of shallower groundwater sampling wells like Dan Bicknell had suggested years ago, but it's a step in the right direction. And of course, the EGLE's tweaking of their lab can detect down to 0.2 parts per billion is significant. So I'm really interested in seeing the results of those the latest runs of samples to see if they picked up all of the homeowners that the township found at their 522 sampling, whether there might even be some new homes detected of those 127. There was a mention of the Smith property, the Smith development of MIHQ wanting to use the fire well for fire suppression. In fact, that well is still active. The other wells at the Gelman site that were used for production were shut down. And the thing that was disappointing about those other wells being shut down is they didn't do a final sampling of those before they shut them down. It should have had the day of the week of the closures, they should have done a final sampling, but they didn't happen. But the fire well, or as it's called in one of the maps, the fire suppression well, and I think I've got that layer here someplace. It's in behind where the it'd be right in here. It's where the well is. And then one of these layers has it. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. That's not groundwater flow. Yeah, I can't find it. I had it up earlier, but anyway, it's so that well is still active even though the water tower is gone. I think this this structure here is a tank, water tank, and I think that's probably where the water's being housed. So that was a fire suppression well that was used for both building 1 and building 2, and maybe even for the treatment building. I'm not sure about that, but so the fact that the new tenants in building 1 and building 2 want to use that might have some they might have some history to see. Yeah, that's probably okay. But we'd like to have some samples from that well before giving our blessing to anything like that. I mean that well is as deep as some of the other production wells that were at double and triple digit parts per billion back in the early days. So if they're not sampling it, that's a real omission. If they are sampling and keeping it hidden from the public and from the people that are going to be using that water, that's another whole issue too. So that's an open issue that we have to follow up on. Back to my left off.
Kathy,
So,
no other question.
any questions about the firewall?
Go ahead, Kathy.
I have a question. Well, I have a comment. We had a meeting in Scioto Township with Mark Smith and our utilities director and several representatives from EGLE. And EGLE is going to be involved in the analysis and permitting of anything that happens regarding this well on the property, and it's still underway. There is going to be testing. I don't know when it's going to be done. This was a preliminary discussion and everything's going to be handled by EGLE.
No timetable.
I don't have it, no.
Yeah, keep us informed on that. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, and then as Chris pointed out last meeting, that that portion of the Gelman site is not subject to institutional controls. That was carved out because they're going to have been working with dioxane, and there's I don't know, they don't have the same institutional controls that homeowners do, and so the firewall is still available apparently. Uh, any questions on that before I go on? It's both Beth and I have reviewed and begun to document what it takes to do what we do every month. And I'll just go ahead and open this up so you can see what Beth has to do every month. She claims she can do this in 6 hours. I don't know about that. It seems like you spend more time than that. But
That's
so
even
it's
counting,
basically,
that's counting being at the meeting right now too. I mean,
yeah, I mean, that's part of the 6 hours, right?
yeah.
Um, so I'm thinking we might be able to restructure this to make it less scary for any new volunteers that want to take over the secretarial position, even though it's, only 6 hours a month. So that'll be open to suggestions to simplifying, having maybe I'll take this and send it into Gemini and say, uh, give me a bullet point list of this.
But it's not meant to scare people away. It's just meant
I
to
know,
tell
it's exactly
whoever
what you do,
replaces
right?
me what they need to do. Like it's
Right, right.
the handoff.
Yeah,
You can
well, but
do
you've
whatever,
been
you
doing
can
this so
delete it
long.
if you want, but then nobody will know what I do.
Well, I think we can you may have a bullet point with the details. Um, so the minutes, the meetings themselves, that's 2 hours right there. And you have to send out a notices. And so that's another few minutes there. And then the minutes themselves is probably what took the longest time because you had to sit through and go through the transcript and everything. But AI can probably maybe cut down on that some because you can
Mhm.
look at the AI summary, follow through on the video at faster speed, and follow the dialogue and say, is that what we really said? Did AI get it right? Blah, blah, blah. And maybe that'll take less than 2 hours because you can go faster than what the real time is. And then, of course, all the correspondence. There's random things that come up through the month, and we probably have maybe a dozen emails uh, at most a month. That's outside of the normal notices. Is that what would you think, Beth?
Yeah, or
Maybe.
less, 6 to 12 maybe, but I'll have random people will email me and say they want to be on the mailing list now, and they got my name, email from somebody down the road, but
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a very critical position that Beth has, and we need, if she wants to step back, we need to have some beat the bushes and get somebody that can either share the duties with somebody else or transition into it. And Beth could be Secretary Emeritus to be there in case something blows up. So that's one thing. So any new candidates, let's beat the bushes for that. Talk it up among your colleagues and acquaintances and people you talk to. And if we had funds, we could hire somebody to do this, right? Part-time. Should talk to our treasurer about that. Vince? Still on?
Oh,
And
yeah.
then um, So here's what I do every month. And it probably takes me at least 6 hours, probably 8. Because I have to do all this technical stuff. Um, and then there's the archiving part of all of the stuff that comes through in the emails and stuff. I store that, and I don't even think I put that on here because that's not a monthly thing. That's sometime quarterly. So I've got some more to fill in on this, but I'm not hopefully not going away anytime soon, so I can continue to do that until we find I do have a graduate project into a school of information that would cover some of this, and would it be an uh, ongoing project every semester that something would be done to build on the last semester's work. And the first couple of semesters would be kind of develop an outline for what needs to be done that would help be challenging enough that the students would get something out of it, how to use the different tools that are available, and even getting into AI as how to use different AI tools to help further this along and check on things. So we'll see what comes of that. There may be some takers on that. I'm trying to do the wording in such a way on the thing that it piques people's interest without scaring them away. Because we got a lot of archives, and all that fits into what the future is going to hold. We've made a lot of progress over the decades, and we need to build on it. This next thing is just a review of the fourth consent judgment monitoring wells that were promised, and which ones of those. Here's the locations that were identified back in 2020 and later on as it got adjusted. And then this is where they occurred with, these are, if they got a dot there, that means there's a well there now. And the red ovals are where we still don't have monitoring wells that were promised. And that was again proposed back in 2020. When did the fourth CJ actually get implemented? It was a few years later, but it's been a couple of years and still don't have these. We might be getting a little bit of this because it's near enough slots, and maybe that'll count as one of them. But I just wanted to review that to remind people that we were promised things and it's still not delivered.
Roger, should I add that to like the EGLE for the quarterly to ask them why?
Yeah, maybe fourth CJ update. Was that already in there? I can't remember.
I'm sure it's in here, and they always just say there's nothing new, but why don't we ask that question? Where are wells? What are they? FG missing wells. I mean, it doesn't take that long to put in monitoring wells.
New draft monitoring plans. Maybe that's what this was.
Yeah.
But they're not new anymore.
Right.
Those are old draft monitoring plans.
I'll add that a special topic for the
I mean, it's just something that we need to pay attention to and not let it slide by. The other thing that happened was one of the nights I was at the summer festival, saw an acquaintance who was involved with SRSW early. He has a farm right across from the SIO. Oops, I better not do it here. Tracy. This development, the SIO View development, the old Smith property. And apparently there's this one little corner of it here. I don't know if you can see this. Uh, there's a permit for wetland remediation down here in one little corner of this Scioto View property. And apparently what they did, they got a permit to change the flow of that so that this now causes there's there's some wetland designation here, like these brown areas are wetland areas. So there's one there that extends across the road to Jim Richardson's farm, and he can't farm part of his land now because of what this permit did. I was there just out there earlier this afternoon to look at this because we just ran into him last night. So I said, I'm going to come over and talk, see what's going on here because we were going to walk around this farm and walk back. We couldn't even walk back because there's part of the farm you can't walk through. It's all mush. It's all, they used to be able to drive through it. Now you can't even walk through it. So that's a new issue that came up, and I just wanted to bring it up, and so I went ahead and updated what I could from Map Washtenaw and put it on Google Earth. And then this is the original drawing for plan for that shows the permit. And yeah, so here's his property. Here's 30 acres, I think, between Liberty Road out all the way down to Knight Road. And right in here, we tried to walk through here. So there's water building up on this side that's now flowing across the road that didn't used to do it that way. And then it's going down here, and it's somehow getting into this across this field here. So we couldn't walk across this field back to the house. We had to go back and walk down the road again. So seeing that with my own eyes was helpful today. And I'm not sure how it affects us, but if there, it would certainly be an issue if this area, and there's going to be a holding pond here. It might already be there, in fact. If that ends up having dioxane like these in-stream retention ponds did, that's going to be an issue. You don't want surface water with dioxane going out of the area. So I just wanted to point that out, and maybe we'll follow up with the authorities as things develop. James, looks like you have a question.
I do, and that is regarding this Scioto View development. This has been approved and it's under construction right now.
Oh, I think they're all sold out already.
All right, who is the builder?
Oh, I don't know. There's probably more than one builder involved.
Mark Smith.
Well, Mark Smith was the owner of the property, his family. But there's signs that show who the builders are. There's some luxury homes that are going into this. Let's see, where did I drive through today over here? I guess in this area here aren't built up yet.
So this is off of Liberty then, west of Wagner?
Yeah, it's you can get through it through Parkland Plaza up here off of Jackson. And there's a new access road down here, then it winds around. And then they had to build an entrance down to Liberty because you don't want to have this big a development with only one entry point for fire protection and things. So, and of course, just traffic too. I mean, this would have been a lot of traffic to go out on Parkland Plaza.
All righty. I just need to know where that was. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it.
A little aside, when I first got involved with the Gelman thing, I worked right here. 173 Parkland Plaza.
I just looked it up. It said Lombardo Homes.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think that was the sign. Yeah. And they're a big builder, Then
But I guess he's contacted the county or the township or somebody, right?
Well, this is EGLE. This is all EGLE's permitted. So I downloaded the several dozen documents relating to this and started to skim things in there. But the fact that this is already in place, it's a done deal. There's water. That's the issue that he has because he's not able to um, make productive use of this land anymore that as he did before this was built. This was all tiled, and it wasn't really farm fields. They did have some cornfields in here, but a lot of it, because these were peat mining lakes, and you can imagine what the soil is like next to a peat mine. It's not going to be very um, productive in a lot of cases. And then apparently, a lot of the topsoil was removed and sold somewhere else. So, yeah, there's some other history of this site that makes it what it is. There's some monitoring wells on the development, and three of them were shut down because nesting of three was shut down because it happened to be in the footprint of one of the houses they were building, and they're supposed to replace that with another set of monitoring, but that hasn't been done. So here's the wells. These are the pond surface water, and since this was been monitored by EGLE, well, here's one. Here's one. 2021, 1.2 parts per billion was the most recent reading. There were higher readings back in the early days that are not in the current database. Um, these wells here are all in the footprint of this one's right on the border. This is 128, MW 128. This was the one that's was pretty high and still was last time it was read, according to the data here. And that's about 100 feet deep. Then there's these were compliance wells, and early on there were some hits in that, but I think this is the one that got this nesting here. I think these had to be shut down, and that one had a more recent reading, 2018, of 4 parts per billion. So, and that was only 50 feet deep. So, yeah, that's a concern. Dioxins start to get the water here. If it's not contaminated, it might have been in the past, or it might get contaminated in the future because of what's coming down the pike here from, the core site. Anyway, I just want people to be aware of that, and we should do some kind of follow-up to make sure that it gives you an idea of the magnitude of the dioxin. There's still a lot of high dioxins at the Marsh and some of that is going through the Saginaw Forest and heading this direction. So anyway, I think that it might be the end of my update. Let's see, where did I leave that? Here. Oh yeah. Yeah, so this is a little diagram that shows that the water is going um, along the road and across the road from that permitted area. And we already covered the refugee, how do you say that? Refuge? I can't pronounce it still. The festival.
Roger, I have a question.
Yeah.
Those houses off of Liberty, did you say they have like city water going to them now?
This property here has city water.
Okay, thank you.
And so does Scioto Hills.
Okay.
And the people along Park Road and these little homes in here have access to it. Not all of them have been hooked up probably, but yeah. And they have sewer along with the water. That originally this was not part of the sewer district, but it was part of the water district. And they got the water district extended up to that area. So
But nobody on the south side of Liberty has city water, correct? And
I don't think so. I think these are all wells. In fact, that's a good point. Let's see if I bring up the township wells.
The new subdivision has city water. Is that right?
which one?
That's this development, the Smith's
Yeah.
property, that's city water.
Yeah,
That's-
city water. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, these are all these white diamonds are homeowner wells.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Be great if we could clean up this Plume because these houses are all in the tough
Well,
spot.
yeah, especially if they're moving the water.
Yep, yep,
You know, I mean, that's just on the surface.
yep.
But we've always concerned about what moving the water in the aquifer does, which is why we didn't want to have certain developments that were injecting water, that would perhaps shift the plume someplace it's not already going.
Well, it doesn't sound like the wetlands permit is working or doing what it should have done.
Well, it's only surface water. So it's probably doing what it's doing, but they didn't consult the property owner next door.
Well,
And they
that's
didn't follow
crazy.
up with what it's doing to his business, his farm.
He's got a lawsuit. He could,
Yeah, right. Like he's got a lot of money to do that, right?
no, probably not. Yeah. But I
You
mean,
know,
they should help him. I mean, there's the city, the county, he's in the county in Scio.
well, there would probably is a solution to take the water that's running off from that now, that it's no longer going up this way. It used to go up into the fields where they were tiled. But
And now
once you
there's
build,
homes there.
once you go into those tiled fields and the tile gets crushed and it's not taking any water there anymore. So that water has to go someplace else. So it's now going this way, which is contrary to where the normal water flow goes, in the groundwater. The groundwater flow is generally toward the river. But here on the surface, I mean, we couldn't walk through that one little area because it was, you can see that this is a county drain here that goes through the property. So maybe we can bring this up with the new Water Resources Commissioner.
Mhm.
Make sure it's on that one.
Pick
But
up
she
some
doesn't have
permit issues.
jurisdiction over EGLE. EGLE's the one that's doing this, so we have to escalate it somehow.
Well, Mike has his hand up.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that in Ann Arbor Township, this was also a concern long time ago, not necessarily related to the Gelman plume, but related to the loss or crushing by development of farm drainage tiles. And so we require, prior to granting any construction permits in these developments in previously farmed areas, that they make best efforts, and we dog that to some extent, to locate the existing drain tiles. And when we find them, if we make them either work around them or replace them or direct them in another place that we'll approve.
Yeah.
So I can't say that we catch all of those because, there's just a lot of tiles all over the place that
Oh, yeah.
people don't know, but we do work at that anyway.
Yeah, well, you don't have to go very far from this point to be where the Great Black Swamp used to be that covered Ohio and Michigan. Yeah, anyway, it's pretty much all I have there for my update. Any questions?
I see none. I'm going to move on to the next
Go
item.
back to agenda here.
Are there any non-agenda items anyone wants to raise at this point?
Life and time just zooms by. It doesn't feel like it while it's happening.
Is there any word on Dino Drive on the PFAS over there?
Kathy said there was no news.
No update on that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Anything else? Our next meeting is August 5th. We've dwindled down to 11 here, so I think it's time to end the meeting.
Yeah, the next quarterly meeting is September, and that'll be the big one. So I don't know if August is gonna. Summer is usually pretty dull, except for last month. So I don't know. We may end up having a quick meeting or no meeting. We'll see.
Alrighty.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy 4th, you
Thanks,
guys.
Jack.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Roger. Appreciate
Bye.
it.
Thanks, everyone. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Take care. Stay cool.
Thanks, everybody who's stuck around.
You bet.
Yeah, Jim, I'm looking forward to talking to your son.
I'll try to question for you.
Well, let me stop the recording here first.
Okay.